Hi team, Richard Greer here, CP coach. We're here for another Team CP media podcast, and right beside me tonight, we've got fantastic Tanya Bottomley. Tanya is a epic adventurer. She's done lots of different stuff, and she's going to join me tonight to co-host the show. Tanya, how are you getting on?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Richard. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so good to have you on board. And it's going to be cool over the next wee while sort of to share some adventures and share some of your stories, but also help us hopefully hold the show together and sort of help keep me on track a little bit as well.
Sounds so good. We'll see how we go with it.
Yeah, fantastic. So give us a little bit of background of yourself and what you've been up to recently. You did feature on one of our podcasts. I'm not sure what episode is now. We might need to dig that one back out, but let's say number 65 or something like that. What have you been up to recently?
So much. So I guess I'm an ultra distance athlete, adventurer. Started with ultra running, but recently I crossed the country for the 45th parallel traverse. So I took 26 days to cover 600 kilometers of hiking and paddling and cycling. A lot of it off track through real wild country. So heaps of fun and heaps of stories to tell from that.
Yeah, that sounds epic, and we will look forward to hearing a few more stories about that as we go. But so that was something that you put together for yourself. It was like your little idea that you had to say, right, I wonder if we can do that, mapping it together and putting it together yourself.
Yeah, 100%. I've had done a few events, obviously races and things like that, but I wanted to try something that no one else had done and really push myself out of my comfort zone. And I really did that. There was a lot of tears and a lot of meltdowns, but the most amazing experience I've ever had. Yeah.
As long as you didn't throw your toys and I guess throw the bike off the track, never to get it back again. So then you obviously got the bike back out of the bush and then carried on.
Yeah.
Yeah, well done. And I love that because I love the way that, like, a lot of times we do events because it's the date and we pay our money, so we have to be there. But actually that doesn't have to be the case. We can do that ourselves. We can create our own missions and adventures and get out and about as well. So I love the fact that you've gone huge for a start, but also put it together yourself. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's just that added adventure, isn't it? I love it. Adventure drives me. So stay tuned for more. There's plenty more to come.
Yeah, excellent. So we've got a big show. We're going to have a bit of a chat to we're going to chat to Nathan Morland. He's our CP athlete profile shortly. So Nathan over the weekend completed a massive bike ride, a 24-hour bike ride to fundraise for child cancer. He completed over 600 Ks and 5,000 vertical meters. And we're going to find out how it went while it's still fresh and his quads are still feeling a little bit tender. We're going to kick off with him. And then later on the show, in about sort of 15 minutes or so, we're going to chat to Aaron Golden Gate, the guy who won 4 Commonwealth gold medals 2 or 3 weeks ago, which is pretty amazing. I actually messaged him about just before the games were starting and say all the best. I'd be really keen to have a chat to you afterwards to see how it all went, but then he got famous and then he was very hard to track down. So going to have a bit of a chat to him, see the inside of how his Commonwealth Games went, how he prepared, how each event went, but also and get a bit of an insight for that and just also where he's off to now. So that's going to be pretty cool to have a good chat to him when he comes online live from Spain very shortly.
Sounds amazing.
Good. Yeah, so we've got a few things going on with Team CP at the moment. We've got our Spirit of Team CP award. Have you heard about that, Tanya?
I've seen some things in social media, but tell me more about it.
Yeah, good stuff. So I'm just going to put a wee graphic up on the screen here for those that are watching right now. So the greatest thing about this is Giant Bikes have put up a $2,500 voucher towards a new bike or to the value like towards a new bike. It doesn't have to be just that much. You could spend it towards a flasher bike if you want to, for somebody that shows Team CP spirit. So from now until the end of November, I would like you to let us know what this means to you and how somebody within Team C demonstrates that. We've got a number of nominations so far, but we want to celebrate all those nominations, and you will get something as a prize as those nominations. So we'll keep those coming through. If you know somebody that is awesome, that tries their best, they don't always need to be first for any stretch of the imagination. That's just challenging themselves, doing cool stuff, and supporting others is basically what we're after. So let us know about that as you go. So it's a pretty cool prize in the next wee bit. And this show is brought to you by Giant Bikes and also Evo Cycles, another one of our key partners. So they've got together, and another little graphic I'm throwing up there is they've taken 10 to 20% off all Live and Giant non-e-bikes. So that's pretty cool, and a whole bunch of their gear in store. So just head in there, tell them you're a Team CP athlete, and they'll hook you up, basically, Evo Cycles. So they're doing some great stuff. And then the third thing that we've got that's pretty cool as well is there's another graphic that I've flashed up on the screen, is our Wednesday or our spring summer sort of road cycling and mountain biking sessions we've got going on. So mountain biking starts after Labour weekend in October, 6 sessions. So that's going on in lots of different places around Canterbury and Christchurch. And then also our Wednesday night roadies group starts from daylight savings, which is actually coming around pretty quick. And our Sunday road group will start across the course of spring and summer as well. So that's going on too. So lots of different stuff happening at the moment.
Sounds like heaps of fun. Wish I was up there.
Yeah, exactly. So, and for those that aren't sort of local to Christchurch, that's just local stuff. But obviously, we've got our Zwift things and our coaching sort of support that we do as well. But shall we jump into having a chat to Nathan, Tanya?
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Forward to it.
We see if he's back there in the waiting room. Nathan, come in.
Hey guys, how you going?
Good, thanks. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. As I just said when I came in, I was just having a quick snooze on the couch. Yeah, so I had to get wake up. Oh, that's right. You're sending me a link to this, so I better get up.
Yeah, that's right. I thought I'd better sort of try and pad out that intro for you, just to wipe the sleep out of your eyes. A little bit tired though, and that's okay because you've been busy over the weekend, eh?
Yeah, it was a pretty big weekend, and it was nice to be able to sort of get in there and do something a little bit different, and sort of push myself out of my comfort zone. I guess it's one of the themes, always talking to you and talking to the crew. It's it's always something that comes through, and having been with you guys now for about 12 months, it's just sort of gone from not strength to strength, but certainly things are starting to get a little bit bigger and a bit longer as we go, which is great. It's really cool.
Yep. Starting to sort of realize what you're capable of, or trying to decide what you're capable of, but we haven't found that just yet.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. It's quite funny, sort of coming from a background where I did play a bit of sport when I was younger. I probably didn't reach my potential, if I'm being brutally honest, and it might be a midlife crisis or something like that. But now around about this time, it's sort of why not?
Yep. So you enjoy riding your mountain bike, you enjoy riding your bike, but you did something a little bit different in the weekend. Tell us about what you did. Tell us what the challenge was, and you also did some fundraising as well.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess like a lot of athletes I call myself athlete now. It's quite exciting. Over the last couple of years, just with COVID and all these events and stuff that have been axed. And it was actually from when I was recovering from COVID earlier in the year, and I thought, what could I actually go and do? And I'd actually seen on GCN, Global Cycling Network, which I imagine a few people have a look at as well. 24 hour, they did a 24 hours Zwift challenge, and I thought, what, I can give that a go. Why not? It sounded like a good idea at the time, and sort of coupled with that, we had, and again, you always ask, your question comes through, well, what's your why? And for me here and for us here at school, we've unfortunately had three children over the course of the last 3 or 4 years that have actually been battling with it. And we've unfortunately got one young boy at the moment who's sort of fighting the fight, so to speak. And that whole thing around child cancer just seemed a real obvious one for us. And I had no particular goal when I started. It was just a case of going, I just wanted to do the 24 hours, and if I make a little bit along the way, that's great. But it tended to snowball a little bit, and there's a few other people got on board and said, hey, we'll help you out as well. And the support around here has just been fantastic. So it's been really cool.
Yeah. So whereabouts are you reporting from? Whereabouts are you based?
Just at Waihi School, so just north of Temuka in South Canterbury.
Yep.
So we're just a little small co-ed I can say co-ed now. We went co-ed a couple of years ago, so we have boys and girls here. Little school of around about 100.
Yeah, fantastic. So in terms of that, so you've got the kind of community behind you. You were doing this down at school. You had people riding bikes and things with you. Paint a bit of a picture of what it looked like. You also had the rugby on the big screen as well. Were you riding your bike?
Yeah. I sort of look at your list of questions there, and it was the highlights, and it was the All Blacks winning a game on the weekend. So that sort of kept me going. No, I was lucky. I mean, I had a really good setup. I sort of had the whole, the TV and everything. So it was a few movies and whatnot going throughout the day. And the local gym who they also ran a 24-hour spin relay. So they started at the same time as I did and went right through just an hour on, and they were fundraising through that as well. So they dropped a couple of spin bikes off. So our staff here at school, there was staff that rode with me for 3 or 4 hours. I had kids who jumped on the bike at all hours. My son, who's 12 years old, jumped on for 3 hours at around about 1 o'clock.
Wow.
1 o'clock on Saturday morning, which is really neat. Yes, that was good. It might have just been because he knew he was going to get a bit of chocolate out of me. But it was really cool. So I mean, my riding for me is for it is for me, and it's for sort of getting away from work and those sort of things. And I love it. And it's that solitary time that I like. But to be able to do it with a whole group of people, that was probably the thing that I took out of it the most, was just how it sort of affected others and that whole sense of just bringing people together, which was really cool.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. That's good. On the bottom of our screen, we have got you a little fundraising link as well that we'll post in the show notes too. So so that's still going on. How much money have you raised?
Yeah, we're just just before, I think I had a quick flick just before we came on. Around about 7,300, and with the contribution from the base in Geraldine, we've I think we're over 10,000 now, which is just fantastic.
Yeah, how good. So something as it started with a bit of an idea, sort of, and let's add in this and let's add in this and get these people involved has come in to be something pretty impressive, isn't it? Something to be proud of.
It's really neat. I mean, it's those people who are the real, the gym owners and stuff, and Bianca Sheed, who she runs the base in Geraldine. She's a real go-getter. That's what she loves doing. And the conversations we had, she goes, "Oh no, I've got to get involved. And I sort of went along for the ride and thought, okay, B, we'll do that. But yeah, she's just been fantastic. It's one of those things about a small community, isn't it? Everyone just gets together, and it's just it hasn't really sunk in yet, Richard. And I don't think it will for a wee while. It's just been cool. And it's just it's a bit of a cliche, but it's just nice to be able to give something back.
Yeah, good stuff. Well. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So it all sounded pretty good. Sound like there's like roses, really. I'm sure there's a bit of a low light in there. Like you were riding your bike for 24 hours, for goodness sake. Tell me about a tough moment or two.
The low lights. I don't know. Trying to walk downstairs today hasn't been pleasant. It's been really. I know. It's quite funny because we had Grandparents' Day here at school today.
Yeah.
So we had a number of octogenarians and older people, and I probably wasn't out of place amongst them trying to move around school.
Yeah, Tanya's just trying to sort of tell me in the background that she needs you to do some squats, but
no, there's no chance. No, the kids were trying to get me to do that today.
Yeah.
No chance of that happening. No, but honestly, during the ride itself, everything went really, really well. I was really lucky. I mean, my biggest phobia was that I was going to get a power cut or something, and the tech would go. So it wasn't, unless it was on Strava, it didn't happen, sort of thing. So I was just praying. I was praying that it was going to that was everything. There was not going to be internet dropping off or anything like that. So there was those sort of things, but. Yeah, just having people there and just people who you're engaged with the whole time. It did make the time go a lot quicker. As I said to you earlier today, it certainly wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. And it does come to that whole the physical side of it wasn't too wasn't too bad because you are just turning the pedals over a little bit. And it's just a time thing. It really was the mental side of it as well. I knew that was going to be the case. So it was, just one of those things, you're always saying, well, how hard are you going to push yourself? And just to, sort of thing, well, I've done this now, then what's next on the list?
Yeah, that's right. Nutrition is a big part of it. You got Kushla Holdaway, our dietitian, engaged as well, just been helping you out with your nutrition, but also specifically this as well. And that was a key part for you to make sure that you could actually still have the oomph to be able to carry on towards the end. What difference did that make?
Oh, that was huge. I mean, it was just sort of probably been working with Kushla for the last 6 months, and it was really when I decided to make the call to go. It was probably actually when I decided to do this. I sort of thought, well, I've got to put that last piece of the jigsaw in place a little bit, and just get my food right. And the advice from her has just been outstanding. And she's watching tonight. Just thanks, Kushla. We'll catch up at some point. But thanks for all your help with that. And it was just all those again. She's been on here, I'd imagine, quite a bit, and her messages I think don't change. It was just little and often, keeping hydrated. And that thing about sports nutrition doesn't have to be too fancy. It was just eating, what you sort of feel like doing when you win as well. I don't know. Again, I said to you this morning, it was after midnight. It was sort of caffeine and sugar to get me through those night hours. But I was actually pretty comfortable with it, and it was all down to that sort of advice I had from Kushla as well, which was great.
Yeah, fantastic. That's awesome. You've got a lot on. Is there any sort of particular way, just in terms of training, that you sort of look to try and structure your training during the week just to make sure things happen?
Oh, not really. I mean, for me, I think my training it's sort of me time, and it's a really important part of, I guess, who I am, and what makes me tick and what makes me happy. So I think like a lot of people, it's really important. And I do tend to get really grumpy if I don't get on my bike, or if I've missed a session or something like that. And my wife and even my colleagues, like I've worked here for a while now, and they know if I've got a session coming up, they're not going to try and hold me up. They know I need to get out for my own, for my mental health just as much as my physical side of it as well. Yeah. Awesome. But I don't. I mean, I'm not a morning person, so I still haven't made one of your 6 o'clock Zwift sessions yet.
Still waiting.
And I probably won't. I can say that on here now. But most of my stuff, it is during. We're lucky with being at a school. I'm on site here. I don't have to travel too far. I can do stuff with the kids when I need to as well. Like we run a bit of a cycling club here at school, so we take them out mountain biking and do some night riding and stuff during the winter, which has been great. But it's just finding the balance, and I'm feeling like I'm in a pretty good space at the moment with that, which is cool. And and I'd say big thanks to you as well for that, because it has been really cool working with you over the last 12 months.
Yeah, awesome.
I have to say, Nathan, that's amazing. Congrats. It's super cool. I love that you called yourself an athlete. It sounds like you definitely deserve that title. But what's up next for you? What adventures have you got planned? Is it too soon to ask?
I've actually got a pretty busy sort of couple of months coming up. Got the Naseby 12-hour that I've entered in. So that's sort of up Central Otago there. So I've done that a few times in teams. So I've done probably half a dozen times now, and I wanted to do that last year as a solo, but that got canned with COVID. So I'm going back this year to do the solo, which is all good.
Awesome.
And then I've entered in there's a Hamner Howler, which is up Hamner Springs Way at the end of October. So it's not actually that far away, and I've put my name down for the 24-hour. So amazing. So perhaps it was a good warm up this last weekend for that. I'm in no rush. I'm in no rush to do an indoor 24-hour again. So next step will be a 24-hour outdoor one.
Yeah, good job, mate. You've done well. super stoked for you, Nathan. You've done really well, and I'm sure there's a lot of people are super proud of what you've done, and well done for all the fundraising you've done as well. And just good on you for just going to have a crack and seeing if you can. And just a super thing, a super great thing you should be proud of. So on behalf of all of Team CP and the wider community, well done, and go and you probably deserve some more sleep, I think.
Yeah, I don't think we'll be too far away tonight.
Good job. Okay, thanks for joining us. Take care, and we'll look forward to catching up with you soon.
I really appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Good job. Well done. See ya.
Cheers, guys.
How good. I like your comment about I do enjoy the fact that he accidentally called himself an athlete, because most people don't. We encourage people to call themselves athlete because they're training for stuff, because they're dedicated, because they're pushing the boundaries, all those things that an athlete is. So super cool. Well done for a fantastic performance. Great to be able to help them through that and cheer them on, and cool to be able to wake up on Sunday morning and just check in with Swift, and the fact he had done 580 odd kilometers and he was riding at 27 k's an hour sort of thing at that particular moment. It was pretty cool.
So good. It's impressive.
Yep. Yeah. That's awesome. So our next guest on the show is Aaron Gate. So Aaron, as you'll know, as I mentioned at the top of the show, he is a pretty epic human being with his fantastic performance at the Commonwealth Games. So we're just going to see if we're going to be able to get him online. Let's just hold here for a second. And this, hey team, I've got Aaron Gate here. Managed to pin him down. He's been a busy man after his fantastic achievement at the recent Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. 4 gold medals in 1 game's an absolute fantastic achievement and a record for any New Zealand athlete in any Commonwealth Games. And that's super impressive when you think about all those that have gone before you. It's been a couple of weeks, Aaron, since that achievement. Has it actually sunk in for you now?
Thanks, Richard. Yeah, it was a pretty exciting time over there in Birmingham for sure. I think would have been nice to be able to go back to NZ and probably enjoy it with friends and family a bit more, but it's still been nice to have my parents and also my wife and son over there with me, and sort of straight back into it on the road with the Bolton Equities Black Spoke team, which has been good just to keep momentum going until the season's end.
Has your position in the team changed at all? Or have the guys in the team sort of made sure they've just sort of brought you down to earth again? Where has that sort of been at since Commonwealth Games?
I'm still the old man in the team. Yeah, it was before the games and am after it. So not too much has changed, to be fair. And one thing with medals is that you get your medal and you sort of wear it for that moment, and then it's never worn again. Have you worn it to the breakfast table in a team meeting or anything like that? With those medals? Nah, maybe that's an idea to stamp some authority at the next road race, perhaps. But no, it's the hanging pride of place on the wall in the lounge. They're my one contribution to the interior decor of the house.
A fair bit of effort gone into that interior decor too, so I'll give you a fair bit of credit for that. That's awesome. So let's just take a bit of a step back, Like it's you mentioned that you're the old man of the team, and you've been around a while. You've obviously enjoyed riding bikes, but tell us about when it all started for you. How did you get into cycling, and tell us a bit about your build through the years?
For me, it all started when I moved high schools when I was in 4th form, or year 10, they call it now. Parents moved house, I could get into Auckland Grammar, and then started road cycling there. They always had a pretty strong road cycling team, and it was a sport that I'd enjoyed watching on TV, but never really thought about getting into until it was presented as an option for taking part in one lunchtime. So I went along to the meeting there and sort of got started. My dad had an old giant Cadex with 14 speed downshoe 105 shifters and everything on it. So it was very, very much an old school bike, and just kind of got started from there, and just really enjoyed the feeling of racing and going fast. And it was where most of our racing we did was team time trials, so it was like a good feeling of camaraderie, because it was about extracting everything from each individual in the team, make the team go as fast as possible. So it was just something that really interested me as a dynamic and as a sport, and the other sports of soccer and squash and tennis that I had been playing kind of went by the wayside as I put my full attention into cycling. And then when I went to the Junior World Championships in my last year of high school, the schoolwork kind of went a little bit by the wayside that year too. But had done enough to get university entrance for engineering. So enrolled at AUT and was a week into studying engineering there before I got a call from the national coach, who was Tim Carswell at the time, to ask if I wanted to go and race in Belgium and the States for a big chunk of the middle of the year. And so I quickly withdrew from university, got a full refund on all my papers, and kind of haven't looked back ever since.
Yeah, fantastic. Have you finished that university degree, or is it sort of sitting out there?
No, I did chip away at a few extramural papers, but engineering wasn't actually available extramurally at the time. So I did a bit of small business management, bit of computer science, bit of photography even, but never quite got to the end of a course. I think once I got to the second year papers of each course, I'd sort of just it's always, I've got full credit to people that can do it extramurally, because it takes a lot of focus and energy, and I just found it was deterring, the amount of stress that it was adding to getting the training and racing done. And then the fact that I realized I was putting more effort into writing my extension requests than actually doing the assignments, I realized it was probably time to park it for a little bit.
Yeah, that's awesome. So took up that challenge of riding with the national team around in the US and Europe and things. So has it always been sort of more for you into the track cycling, or has it been a bit of both? I mean, you did mention sort of coming into this Commonwealth Games when the track cycling's going well, the road racing's going well, and then vice versa as well. How does that gone for you?
It's kind of come up recently, I suppose, as like probably a small regret for me is when I had these opportunities to race on the road. In the back of my mind, it was always like a training stimulus for a track outcome. So I had a lot of access to great races, but I never really, I got some results along the way, but I probably didn't apply myself to getting results and racing at the front of the bike races and everything that's required to get noticed by teams from a young enough age. And then kind of when I did get the opportunities, it was like a little bit too late here and there. Like I got presented by Ron Cheekley that was pushing for me to go to the Livestrong team, and he's like, I think I can get you a spot there, but of course it's under 23, and that spot came around at my last year of under 23, where the following year I was going to be first year elite. So something like that kind of might have changed my pathway a little bit, I suppose. But at the same time, I have no real regrets, because I've enjoyed every aspect of racing so far. And if I had have gone too far down the road pathway earlier on, I wouldn't have had the chance to go to maybe even these Commonwealth Games and race the track there. So I think everything kind of happens for a reason, and I've been lucky enough that I've still had plenty of amazing opportunities in terms of racing around the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fantastic. And obviously the track, and we need to just talk quickly about that Tokyo situation as well. Like obviously you broke your collarbone, and there was a recovery period that didn't go exactly to plan either. How did that go? Like thinking about, the gold medal race, was that ever in the back of your head? Did that ever enter your consciousness of like, I just need to make sure I'm clean here, or anything like that? Was there any thoughts, or was that completely dealt with coming into this event?
It probably did cross my mind in the first training rep or two on the track, but then it was kind of back to business as usual. And I've done a lot more team pursuits where I haven't crashed than I have crashed. So it's kind of like one of those things that it was pretty quickly a race. But if anything, for me, that winning that gold felt like it was kind of redemption in a way to what did happen in Tokyo. And I know it's a bit of a different event, and it's something that I'll never quite be able to let down. It was kind of good bit of redemption, and I think at least put me back on back on the right pathway of success rather than falling off.
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, like I was super stoked for you as well, just to have such a fantastic ride. And you mentioned that in the Commonwealth Games, that was the event that was kind of your target, the first target that you're really shooting for, and lined up for. Is it? Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, it was kind of the one we put the most emphasis into. Like we actually hadn't trained together since that, as a squad, since that crash in Tokyo. So for myself, Campbell, and Tom was sort of new into the squad. He was our non-travelling reserve for Tokyo, and full credit to him for coming leaps and strides in the last couple of years with the access he's had to high level of racing on the road with the Bolton Equities Black Spoke team, because he was super impressive there. We couldn't fault him through the whole build up, and then on race day delivered exactly perfect performances. So it kind of set us up well, having him be able to slot in and take up the slack that poor Reg left behind, who's been still suffering with long COVID back in NZ. It was a shame not to have him there, but at the same time, it was great to have some depth in our squad and Tom step up to the plate to fill the big void that he left in our team.
Yeah. You like, as I mentioned, like you broke your collarbone, and it didn't, like, I think you had to have surgery on it and surgery again or something like that, didn't you? Is that correct? Like in terms of your recovery?
Yeah. It was like the height of summer over here in Europe when I had the surgery done, and I was pretty keen to leave no time to waste and salvage what I could from the rest of the season. So I was on the erg pretty much the day after the operation, and thought I was doing everything right, but clearly I wasn't, because the surgical site ended up getting infected, the stitches that I had. So I had to, I ended up being able to do one more race or a couple of races, and then had to have another operation to get the infection removed, which was another like full general anesthetic, obviously not to quite the same extent, but still knocked me around a little bit. And then that, off the back of that one, I had to be super careful, albeit not completely following the doctor's advice of don't go for a ride for a month, but still managed to get back on the bike pretty quickly after it, but just be a bit more mindful of keeping that wound dry. But unfortunately, which they outlined might be an issue from the start, there was actually a really slow growing bacteria still in under the plate itself. So that started coming back, and I managed to still race the track world championships with this sort of slow alien sort of bubble forming under my skin. Not to give you too many gory details, but in the end had to then get the plate removed after I completed the Track Champions League. So it was about 4 months, or just under 4 months after the original operation, the plate had to come out, and so they said the plate normally should stay in for 12 months to let the collarbone get to full strength, and the infection unfortunately sort of delayed some of the healing too. But at least I was, that was the end of the season for me. I managed to have all of December off the bike, so I had that removed, didn't touch the bike until the 1st of January, and just gave it time to really reset. Would have been nice to get out on the skis while I was over here in winter, but that was a big no-no that I thought was not worth the risk. And luckily haven't had any more issues since then, touch wood.
Yeah, nice. And that's the thing, like Tokyo was only last year. Usually it's a couple of years between the Olympics and the Commonwealth Games. So actually, it was a pretty quick turnaround to go and have a good crack at this. So actually that's pretty well timed. Tell us a bit about, so we've got a gold in the bank, and tell us about the next event, how the next couple of events on the track and how those unfolded.
It was the individual pursuit the following day, which was something that had kind of been in the back of my mind, but not something that, like, it was a fun, like, this is something I find difficult to communicate sometimes with people that don't know track cycling, because you look at a track and it's indoors and you're like, how can conditions affect it? But air pressure and air density plays a massive role in times. And so the conditions in London were actually really slow for when we were racing, which is something that also came up back when Bradley Wiggins did our record there, that you know, the air pressure was super high, and you know, there was talk of how much faster he could have gone, and on a different track in better conditions, or if London just happened to have a low pressure system rolling over that particular day, which is kind of something on any given day, it doesn't matter because everyone's racing under the same conditions on the same track. But, you know, I sort of had in my mind that the IP there with the quality of riders that would be lining up from Australia and also the United Kingdom nations would be pretty tough. And I just kind of envisaged there being a pocket of riders around that 4:05 mark, which was a good nearly 3 seconds off my personal best time. So I knew I was going to have to really step up if I wanted to be in the medal hunt there. And with the way the conditions fell, I still managed to do a PB time, but it was around the 4:07 mark, and nobody else really. I think everyone else went out quite ambitiously and sort of came off pace in the last 1 to 2 Ks, which is kind of my strength to bring it home strong based on the training I had been doing. And so it was great that I managed to, I guess, live up to my own expectations there and what I thought I was capable of, and then to win another gold medal and do it with also having Tom Sexton in second place was pretty cool.
So basically the key thing for you, other than a fantastic performance, is just actually how well you paced yourself to your own time splits effectively.
I guess, like, in saying that, I paced the final a little bit differently, but then the outcome was still a very similar time. So sometimes the IP is kind of what you're physically capable of too. It's just extracting every ounce of pain that you can from the body. But I think that's something that I was kind of super happy with, based on the fact that, you know, in training I'd done sort of 2 not even half distance efforts, and that was pretty much it, because the focus had been on the team pursuit. So it was kind of just when I could squeeze in an effort here and there in the prep, and to connect it up with doing 2 good times was great. And I think just kind of highlights what I've always known, that, you know, if the form's there, you can ride well, but if you're trying to grasp at straws and, you know, hope that something special can happen on race day when the prep hasn't been great, that's never really going to work.
And clearly, going back to that preparation, like obviously you're on the road racing and things, the volume of riding that had done prior to that, but also that freshness, I guess, that you'll need to bring over that course, because it wasn't just one day, you're competing over a number of days, would be a key thing for you to get right. Tell us a little bit about your, I guess, your coach and your relationship you have with your coach, but also keen to hear about that is just how that fits into the fold of the track schedule and other coaches in the New Zealand team as well.
Yeah, I've worked with my coach, Simon Fennell, since I was 17 or 18 years old. He sort of started helping me out back in the days of racing on Manukau Velodrome before I went to the Junior Track Worlds, and we've kind of built up a really close relationship over the years and work really well together. I can bounce ideas off him, and he can tell me if they're stupid or not, basically. And it's great to have that extra, I guess, camaraderie in a way where we kind of feed off each other. And it's been something that his idea of always training hard and still allowing time to taper and freshen up is something that has always worked out really well for me. And I think that was highlighted at the Com Games. Like, I knew I had to keep the pressure on right up until 1 week before racing. So during our track training camp, when it's normally about, like, we had 3 weeks there and dialing in everything technically in terms of team pursuit changes and pacing strategy and everything else, I was still going out and getting some hard efforts done on the climbs in Switzerland and on the TT bike ready for the time trial as well. So I was kind of running things pretty close to the razor's edge of burning out for those 2 weeks. But I just knew if I could get to that final Sunday of the camp and then start to freshen, that everything was, I could be confident in my form and race well. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. It was just pushing myself to the limit in that training phase. So I had that big platform to then freshen from.
No, that's good. So Craig Palmer and the track squad have their schedule, and then Simon works with you on the other stuff to fit in and around that, and then you work.
Yeah, so he has the plan from Craig, and then there's, it used to be we'd be on the track for a lot more, but now the track in those particular camps, the track has been scaled back to just sort of 3 or maybe 4 key sessions a week. So there's some scope there, whether it's an additional session on the day of a more technical kind of track session, or on a day that is just a general ride. Simon can actually program in some specifics that, that the other guys get taken care of by their personal coaches or by Craig as well. So it's, it's something that it worked well because Craig respected Simon and knew that I'd always show up in training camps in good condition. So there was something that you could kind of leave to our own devices to do, and then still have a bit of scope when towards the pointy end of the last final training block as well.
Yeah, good stuff. Awesome. So that leads us to our third gold medal, the points race. Tell us about that event and how that one unfolded, because that, again, another team effort to be able to achieve that, and a pretty awesome result.
Yeah, it definitely was a team effort. That's the kind of the difference with the Com Games versus other major track competitions, is you don't normally have teammates on the track, so it adds a different dynamic, and you have to race it a little bit differently. But at the same time, our plan was not to race it too differently, just kind of race our own races aggressively, and not, when you start trying to build plans around a particular rider, it can quite easily go pear-shaped. But the fact that we could kind of feed off each other, and we were all mature enough and done enough track races that we know when you're helping someone or when you're being a hindrance. So it was cool to be able to go out there and have all three of us race really well. And Corbin definitely switched into a more selfless role sort of halfway through the race once he realised he was going to be out of the medals, but he still managed to have a crack at taking laps too. So, which in turn put our competitors on the back foot because they had to chase them down. So it's kind of like sometimes racing your own race is enough to work well as a team too. A points race is something one of the races that I've always really enjoyed on the track. It's one of my favourite ones. It's just the way you get sort of different chances, and you can race in so many different ways. Like if you go for one sprint and leading it out doesn't work and you get fifth and you get no points, you're like, okay, well, I'll try something different for the next sprint. Like there's always a little bit of luck involved too, but just the way that you can adjust your plan tactically as the race goes on is kind of an aspect I've always really enjoyed about it.
Yeah, nice. And the other teams don't know if you're working as a team or not, so they expect that you are, but then you're not. So it's
exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. So big tick in that box. That's obviously pretty awesome. And that led us to the time trial, which is another fantastic performance, just off the podium, but by not by much. How were you feeling on that day?
I mean, it was a great opportunity to even be able to get to ride that time trial at the Com Games. You know, there's some pretty big names that have done it in the past. Yeah. So to get to line up in itself was great, and I wanted to give it a good nudge. And I mean, not trying to make excuses here, but the prep wasn't the best. Like coming off the track, there'd been a couple of sessions in the previous weeks on the time trial bike, but it was always not an unknown, but I just knew that it wasn't quite going to be my best physical performance based on the prep I'd had. Like Oceanias, for example, I actually had a decent run into that with some more specific sessions and longer intervals on the time trial bike, whereas, you know, just the only real chance I had to do was some 10-minute intervals for a 40-minute race. So it was, kind of a little bit more of a gamble, particularly on that course, because it was a very
just lost Aaron there for a second.
Oh, you're back.
Whoops, are we back?
Yep.
Okay, start again. Sorry about that.
That's all good. No, it was a very difficult course. Far different to anything I'd done a time trial on before. It was quite technical and a lot of climbing and descending. There wasn't really much flat straight road in the whole course. So it was something that you kind of just had to go out really hard on the climbs and hope you'd recover on the downhills. Unfortunately, I just kind of ran out of steam in the last 5K. Still managed to, just think aero thoughts and keep the legs ticking along to get me to the finish. But yeah, all in all, I was still pretty happy with. I know fourth is probably the worst position to be, but at the same time, I was still pretty happy with my performance. And if anything, the fact that third place was a minute ahead of me meant that I didn't have to spend time dwelling on, what if I'd taken that corner slightly faster or pedaled a bit harder there. It was kind of like, there wasn't much more I could have done on the day to get that minute. So, I think the three guys that were ahead of the pack were Ryan Dennis, who's won numerous time trials over his career, and two guys coming off the Tour de France. So it's quite a different build to me coming off a track camp, and to still be ahead of the rest, so to speak, was cool. Yeah,
you're obviously a guy that goes pretty well locking himself in the hurt locker, because that's what that time trial is, and that's what the individual pursuit is. And we'll talk about the road race in a moment. But what's going through your head when you're riding that time trial? Are you focusing on like your technique? Is it position? What are you focusing on to help like extract every last moment of energy out and put it through the pedals to help you go faster?
There's definitely some cues you have to remind yourself of, because it's one thing to work on a position when you're riding statically on the rollers at 50 watts or in a wind tunnel or whatever else, but to keep reminding yourself to hold that position that is saving you time essentially when you are on the limit is one of the most difficult things to do. And just constantly having those cues of keep your head down, like make sure your eyes are going, looking where your head's in the right position, and keeping your back flat, and all those little things that do genuinely equate to more speed for less input, because it's so easy just to lose that focus when you are on the limit, which is when it kind of matters the most, because that's when you're not able to push the pedals as hard anymore. Those are definitely pretty important cues, but also that course was the other dynamic that was added in was when you've just pushed yourself sort of into the red zone a bit, going up a climb, to then be focused enough to pick your lines correctly on everything on the descents, which I nearly cooked up at one point, but managed to salvage. Like that's definitely a challenge, but kind of part of the fun in a way.
Exactly.
For a sicko.
Right, so that's what actually you're trying to say. That's how I deal with the hair loss. Maybe not completely healthy in the head. No, that's awesome.
You always got to be a bit of a weirdo to be into cycling to start with.
That's right. Which takes us to the road race. Like, one of the best things I think I heard from your interviews and things was the fact that you were cramping or almost cramping, and that brings it back to the us weekend warriors that are trying to do our best, and the fact that you're in the hurt locker that deeply, but still able to, keep covering those attacks and then have enough left in the tank to sort of, as it opened up, to sprint for the finish line. How did that unfold? Tell us a bit more about that, and just that, I guess, how you're dealing with that sort of at the back end of the race when it's all getting a bit ugly, and you know that you can't give up, because you've mentioned like there's other guys in the peloton that haven't had this opportunity, so I better make sure of it for them. How are you dealing with that?
You've done a great job of summarizing a lot of that. Thanks. It was, I think just highlighting the fact that there was a lot of pressure, because there was, 5 other high quality Kiwis in the field behind me that had kind of, all our eggs were now in my basket, so I had to not stuff it up, so to speak. Those cramps coming on the last couple of laps, I was sort of like, okay, I've gone pretty hard following some of these moves, I might just have to rein it in. But then another one would go, and there's kind of nothing you could do other than chase it and hope that you're going to be fine. And so I remember as well, there was like that one little straight downhill on the section of the course, and I was like, okay, this could be a good chance just to stretch the quads out, because I could feel that they were the ones going. So I sort of flipped my right foot out, went to put my foot up on the saddle to stretch it out, and as soon as I did that sort of extra extension of or extra contraction of the hamstring, that started cramping up. So I was like, oh no, foot's going back in the pedal, don't worry about that. It'll be all right. But I think just the way it played out as well, like just tried to immediately get back on top of hydration and everything, and because I've been fueling, but maybe just not quite enough electrolytes throughout the day with the water and the particular drink mix I was getting from the side of the road. So maybe just more electrolytes would have helped, but it was also just, it wasn't a particularly, like, it was warm, but it wasn't a hot day. But I think just the fact that the condition, like, it had been a long time since I'd done more than a 3-hour ride, but with the building to the track, it had been nearly 3 weeks probably. So just I got kind of lucky that I was following the moves, but then with the way it transpired in the last 10 or so K, when we had 2 guys off the front, I just kind of had to play dumb a bit and be confident and that the other guys were going to bring that back. And sure, if that's how it played out. And tactically, I just knew patience was going to be everything in that final run to the line. I'd kind of done all I could to keep the race together to that point. So then it was now time to sort of sit back and say, okay, somebody else has to do this now. And I guess it was a bit of a gamble, but at the same time, I could sort of, it's always like thinking about what other people are thinking in those moments, and just knowing that, okay, if he's gone, I know that he's going to chase or whatever else. So having that, I guess, that confidence and being assertive in my decisions was pretty crucial, and something that has probably only come more recently in my career. Like, it's always, you sort of start second guessing and wondering, am I making the right decision or whatever. But in that particular race, I just remember that every decision I made was clear cut, and I did it for a reason. And to have it work out was a pretty special feeling.
Yeah, that's so good. Absolutely fantastic. And just to execute that across the finish line, double fist pump. It would be pretty awesome. And the fact that it was the end of your campaign as well. That's super cool. With this whole interview, like, I messaged you just before the Common Games to say all the best. Hopefully go well. It'll be good to catch up with you afterwards. And then all of a sudden you've got famous because you've got 4 gold medals. That must has this changed your, I guess, like, offers, stuff going on? Obviously in New Zealand you're a bit of an icon all of a sudden now. So what's happening in your world at the moment because of that?
It's definitely been a little bit busier. Not a huge amount has changed. I just have to spend a bit more time on the phone. But my wife often jokes she has to book in time to talk to me at the moment. But it's been good. I've enjoyed it. It's kind of, as I say, it doesn't feel like a huge amount of change has changed, but it definitely did spark up some interest from other teams over here. But I'm pretty happy to be staying with Bolton Equities for next year, because it's the team itself is stepping up to pro Conti level, to sort of the next step. And I think we'll have the big reason for doing that is to get access to bigger and better races over here. And I think now that we're getting those invites that'll be coming in, it will be great. And to do that sort of as a pioneering Kiwi team, like no Kiwi team's been able to do that before, and to sort of be a part of that future history is something that I'm not taking lightly. And I think, it's just been kind of refreshing after racing with a lot of Europeans and other nationalities over the years to be back with Kiwis, and sort of that go-get-em attitude, and kind of being as the underdogs. A lot of races this year has been kind of cool. It's always feels like it's a bit easier to punch upwards. So I think it's going to be an exciting year next year too.
Yeah, awesome. And I just want to just touch on, it's always good to share some sort of maybe key insights of your training. How do you get to be so good? But be really keen to sort of, if you could share us, like, if there is a key kind of speed session you tend to do, a strength session on the bike, or a long ride, other sort of key things that you look to try and do on a regular basis. I guess it will depend on different parts of the season and what you're building into. But is there anything you can sort of share with us there in that sort of training space?
It does vary from time of the year. Probably the biggest thing that's changed since when we got locked down in NZ was I put a lot more emphasis on strength work, both in the gym and on the bike, which is something that I'd never really done a huge amount of before. I think just the fact that there was always another competition in 2 months' time or 3 weeks' time or whatever. It's a difficult thing to get right, because when you're doing a heavy strength block, you feel terrible and you go slow, and you kind of just have to be confident that in 3 weeks' time or 3 months' time that work will show through. And so that's probably something that I've done a lot more of, which is just like low cadence climbs, low cadence on the BT erg trainer or any other trainer, sort of sub 50 RPM for extended durations, which is something that often people will say you've got to be careful of your knees and whatnot, which is definitely correct. I wouldn't recommend young guys are jumping on the erg and slogging themselves at 50 RPM, but that's definitely been a help. But I think it's just, for me, a big thing that helps is just a big juxtaposition of training. Like you do the low cadence stuff, but then also another day of the week go out and do 10 to 20 seconds super small gear to the point the chain's almost unloaded, and trying to hit 200 RPM for a sustained duration, just so neuromuscular sequencing is still there, because it's quite easy. Guys that do a lot of strength work, they lose their ability to pedal fast, and that's something as a track rider you can't do, because if you have to ride a gear so big you can't get it off the start line. And so like in a team pursuit, we're averaging 120 RPM at like sort of 650-ish watts on the front. So it's quite a specialist thing you have to be able to produce. And so it takes a bit of like that extremities, I suppose, of high torque, high cadence, and balancing the two and amalgamating them to produce a performance. But I think for me the big thing is keeping volume up. Like I always like to have a 5 or 6 hour day in the week, regardless of the phase, and then just balancing that with enough recovery too. And probably the thing that's worked really well in our relationship with Simon is probably just the sequencing of the week, like approaching 3-day blocks where the stuff in the first day, if it's a VO2 sort of 4 to 5 minute high power session, or a sprint or a torque session, doing those earlier in the block so you're fresh and can hit the numbers you need to. And then the following day, maybe a threshold sort of 15 to 20 minute intervals, followed by just a long, hard day of 5 to 6 hours in the hills or whatever else. Kind of works as a pretty an easy way to approach year-round training between racing and also in that pre-season phase.
Yeah, awesome. So you're currently in Spain. The sun looks like it could be shining through your window there. What's on the cards, the training cards today? What are we up for?
Yeah, I can spin it around actually, show you some hills. We just moved apartment up on a hill, luckily, so we've got some nice views, and you can see that. So yeah, head into the hills today. I've got 3 times 18-minute climbs, I think it is, from Simon today. I think it's just a way of mentally making it a bit easier to stomach than a full 20 minutes at this time of the year. But
I like it. But so head down to the bottom and 18 again. Thanks very much.
Yeah, that's it.
Good job. And just finally, what's next? What's on the cards for the next few months? What's coming up?
I've got 2 tours coming up shortly. I head to Romania on Monday, which will be a new country to race in for me, with on the road there. Tour of Romania Tuesday through to Sunday, and then quick turnaround. We jump on a plane, head straight to Luxembourg and start tour of Luxembourg as well, which will be the last road race of the season for me. And then it's shifting focus back to the track again for the track world champs in Paris, middle of October. So it's a busy last 6 weeks of the year, but I'm looking forward to just kind of getting stuck in still and hopefully finishing the year on a high.
Cool. Does the family travel with you as well, or do they stay in Spain?
They'll stay here this time. It's a bit of a difficult one traveling around between stages. Hopefully get Kirsty and Axel up for the track worlds in Paris though. It'd be cool to have them there for that.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome. And finally, how do people follow you? Is it through the Black Spoke team? Is that the best way to sort of check out to see Aaron's how you're getting on? What's the best way to see?
The Black Spoke team on Instagram is probably a pretty easy way to keep up to date with what's going on with the team. And I'd always try and get get updates on my own Instagram page myself as well, just to keep people that are interested know what's going on.
Wicked. No, that's awesome. Hey, I really appreciate your time. Go out and enjoy riding your bike. Give it heaps in those 18-minute efforts, and all the best for the next the finish off the season and into next season as well.
Thanks, Richard. Appreciate your time.
Well done. Cheers, Aaron.
Amazing. How good. It's so interesting seeing different athletes. It's a kind of sport I don't know too much about. So, yeah, really interesting. What were your key takeaways, Richard?
Yeah, impressive. Just that he talked about his strength block of training they did when he was in lockdown in New Zealand, but also those sub 50 RPM cadence efforts, those big strength efforts. But then on the other hand, I'm not sure if you've been on a bike or a spin bike, Tani, but to ride at 200 RPM is just mental. Like I thought going at 160, 180 is good, but I'm not sure if I've ever hit 200. So that's impressive. But even when he's talked about that riding around the track, sitting on 120 RPM, like a normal cadence we often talk about is about 90. So sitting at 120, doing 650 watts, that's completely next level. So very impressive stuff. So I apologize for all those that will come along to our Zwift sessions in the next while. I think we're going to start playing with some of those sort of numbers. What can you do? Have a bit of a play with, as he talked about the one end to the other, the strength stuff, but then also the high cadence stuff as well. So yeah, I think pretty cool. Great to hear some good insights about how he managed to execute those performances and how his Commonwealth Games went and what he's got lined up for the future and how he trains. Yeah, super interesting. So, Richard, can you just go over again what's happening as we move into spring? Just what we mentioned at the top of the show. Yeah, so we've got lots going on. We've got our mountain bike session will start on Monday. We've got in collaboration with the front runner on a Tuesday, we've got a run group starting that's local to Christchurch. That's tomorrow evening. We've got a Zwift session on Wednesday that will then turn into an outdoor ride on a Wednesday. And then our Thursday run group's going to continue on. And then we've got our Friday Zwift session that happens as well. And then our Sunday group ride will happen. And then bright and early on a Monday morning, back around the lap again is our Zwift session. So basically there's stuff for people that are away up, no matter where they are, but then also local to Christchurch. There's a whole bunch of different stuff going on as well, which is pretty cool. Awesome. Sounds great. It's getting warmer. Time to get back out. The days are getting longer. It's very exciting. Yeah, it is. Well, last week was getting warmer. I think I saw some sleet today. It's been a bit rainy and chilly today, but definitely let's just say that the days are getting longer, shall we? Yes. Yeah. Yes. It's getting warmer here. I'm going to go with it. It was a little bit of snow today, but it was still 10 degrees. So fantastic. That's awesome. Good job. Hey, a big, super great big thank you to Giant Bikes and Evo Cycles for helping keep our wheels rolling, having fun on the trails. And of course, Team CP, your endurance coaching specialist, for bringing this podcast together. Fantastic to have you on board, Tanya. I'm looking forward to sharing a few of your stories and helping to bring a whole bunch of other stories to our team and community over the coming months. Yeah, thanks, Richard. I'm looking forward to it. Good job. Well, that's us tonight, team. Look after yourself. Keep up the good work, and looking forward to seeing what everybody's up to in the next little while. So until next time, stay safe, and we'll catch up soon. I'll see you next time. Good job.